and welcome to the third podcast of Block Girl Talk. I'm your host, Natalie, and today I have my friend Amanda Cooper.
Hello.
And I'm so excited for what we're going to talk about. This podcast is coming after Pastor Grace's message called Staying Power. And so we're going to talk a lot about how do you stay in a season with a good attitude and purpose and good perspective when things are just hard. Very similar to growing your grit and just kind of being a person of perseverance. And so we'll talk more about that soon. But first, I have a serious question for Amanda. Amanda, what is your favorite song currently?
All right. So I feel like this is probably going to be the hardest question that you are going to ask me today because
maybe
I don't have one.
Really?
It's
Okay,
hard to
top
pick
three.
one favorite song. Okay. One thing I will say is that I've kind of been stuck on the whole Maverick City thing lately.
Yes.
Anybody who knows me knows that I'm usually into my old music, like my Kurt Franklin, my Fred Hammond.
I love that.
But I've been into a little bit of the Old Church Basement album and the one they did for Juneteenth. And they have this
Okay,
one song with
yes.
Sierra on it.
With Sierra?
Yeah, like
One,
one,
Two
two
Step?
step. Yeah. When I heard her voice, I was like, I know that voice.
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing. What's
Yeah,
your favorite
side
song
B.
on that album?
On the Juneteenth one,
Yes.
the one with Israel Houghton. I think it's like,
Is it Freedom?
yeah, the Freedom
I
one.
love that song.
Yeah.
I just discovered that song literally the other day, and I've been listening to it probably at least 10 times a
Yeah,
day.
I like that one.
It's a good one.
That one's an on repeat one.
Yes. To the point where I didn't listen to the song that came after it because they kept like going back to the beginning of the song.
And that is part of my problem with albums. I have a hard time getting through them
Yep.
because of that.
Yeah, because you find one song you really like, and you're like, I just need to listen to that
Yep.
again.
Like,
again,
oh, I
again.
like that one.
Yes. Oh my gosh. All right. So today we're talking a lot about powering through seasons that just feel hard, but not even powering through, but choosing to stay.
Okay.
And so my question for you is, what is a moment in life that you would determine to really work through a hard season and stay in that place or circumstance or setting?
Okay. So when I think about that, I automatically think about my first job.
Okay.
So my first job in my career, not my very first job, not like Burger
Which was?
King
Oh, okay.
or Sesame Place.
Wow, you worked at Sesame Place.
Yes,
I love
yes. Shout out
that.
to Big Bird and
Elmo.
them. Yes, the crew. But yeah, so my first teaching job.
Yeah.
I graduated in December, so that's the middle of a school year. It's hard to find jobs. I ended up getting a job the next October,
Okay.
which again, school has already started. There was a teacher who quit. Like literally, I heard she had a mental breakdown, ran out of the classroom and was like, I can't do this.
Wow.
So somehow they hired me. And it was kind of an adventure.
Sure.
Definitely thought about quitting. First of all, wasn't really making much money. Like when I think back at it, I'm like, how did you even live on that salary? No idea. My first week there, a kid called me bald-headed and ugly and told me he was going to get his sister to beat me up. And I was like,
How old
really?
was he?
Great. These were second graders, which, hey, if you guys are out there, you're in high school now, so I hope you're doing great. But yeah, so that was a really challenging experience.
Yeah.
And I stayed that year. I stayed the year after that. And then I stayed one more year
My
after
goodness.
that. And I feel like I'm definitely the teacher I am now because of that whole experience.
Sure.
That last year when I really was like, I feel like my time here is up. Like, I feel like I've learned what I need to learn. It's time
Yeah.
for me to go. That I had to sign my contract to go back by 10 a.m. that morning. After a lot of prayer, I was even on the phone with my best friend on the way to work. We used to talk in the morning. We called it Converse and Commute.
That's so cute.
I know, it's pretty cute, right? I think that's a
Yeah.
good podcast idea.
Ooh,
But she was like, what are you gonna do? I was like, I'm gonna spend all summer looking for a job. Like, I loved the kids there, but there was no support. It was just,
I get
it's
it.
hard.
Yeah.
Long story short, I decided not to sign the contract. I was freaking out all day. The second the last kid left my classroom that morning, I got a call from a place I'd interviewed that offered me a full-time contracted
Wow.
position.
That's
So
amazing.
it ended up working out.
Yeah. But mostly because you chose to stay, you knew you had a reason.
Yep, I had
be
to
there.
learn what I needed to learn from there.
Yeah.
And yeah, now at my new job, I feel like I get a lot of compliments for like the type of
How
teacher
you
that I
teach,
am.
yeah.
And I really feel like I learned that from my first job.
Yeah, from sticking it out there.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yep.
That's really powerful. Now, obviously, you taught through COVID. Was there any point this year, being a teacher during the pandemic, that you were like, wow, I think I'm going to quit?
No.
Wow.
There was not. Now, as we know, a lot of us teachers know, this year was very hard.
Yeah.
But I never thought about quitting because now, number one, I was just very thankful to have a job because I knew that throughout the pandemic, people were losing jobs left and right. Just overall, just thankful that I still had a job that even when we got shut down was still paying me every other Friday.
Yeah.
Like I still had my job security, so I was very thankful for that. But then also just like I guess what I kind of learned from the first job is like I'm here for a reason.
Yeah.
So I never really thought about leaving during the pandemic.
Right. It is so beautiful that when we know our purpose, it helps us stay committed to something. Like
Yes.
when we know the reason why we're doing something, it's like in the face of opposition, in the face of difficulty, it's like, no, I'm supposed to be here.
Right. And I feel like sometimes you might not know what your purpose is in a place, but you know, sometimes it helps me to know that there is one.
Yes.
Where it's like, even if I don't understand it in the moment, I'm like, okay, there is a purpose why I'm here. I have to be here for a reason. And I think that's a good motivator to keep going.
Absolutely. And I think that's so parallel to our Christian walk. It's like holding on to hope and really believing like, man, God, you have me here for such a purpose.
Right.
I was reading in my Devo that I read, which I'm pretty sure you read it too, New
Yes,
Morning Mercies.
the New Morning Mercies.
Yes, the other day, there was the story about Moses. It's in Exodus 6, and it's Moses needing to talk to Pharaoh, and the Lord's like telling Moses what to say, and Moses literally tells the Lord like he's not gonna listen. Like why bother, right? And the Lord's like, no, I'm telling you to do this. And I think there's so many moments in our life where we are cynical or we're skeptical or we don't think something's supposed to be the way it is, but our job is obedience.
Right.
And the Lord's job is outcome. Like
Yeah.
that's what he's in charge of. And so in these moments in life when things feel hard or they don't make sense, our only task is to be obedient and obey like God wherever we are and whatever that looks like, and to work unto the Lord and to be reminded of our calling and our purpose, and that's end all be all. It's like we can't be swayed by the things that we can't control.
Right. I think another thing that you made me just think about too was I think it was Holly Furtick from Elevation Church, one of the like messages I was listening to, but she pretty much mentioned how like whatever you're doing right now, that's your purpose. Like you can find your purpose in that because of course we're always looking for what's our next move in our career, relationships. Like we're always like, a lot of the times we feel like we should be doing more, but sometimes it is nice to just sit back and reflect, okay, wherever I am now, like right now in this apartment that I'm in this position that I'm in, what is my purpose right now? How can I be doing
Faithful
the best?
here.
Yes, here before I can even get to the next step.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Love that so much. I'm just reminded that Amanda recently got a Peloton.
Yes, Peloton gang.
And I know this feels so random, but like working out in itself has a staying power to it because sometimes I'm working out and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do 20 minutes instead of 40. And I worked out. I feel good about myself.
Right.
But there's something to be said when you like finish a hard workout and you're like, I did that.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sure like on the Peloton, it's like you could easily be like, I'm done.
And I've thought about that. Some of these instructors, I would be surprised if any of you were listening to this, but maybe I'll send it to you. Maybe you'll listen. But they don't really give you much of a choice. Like the one girl is just like, can you do it? Yes or yes. And I'm like,
I love that.
I guess I have no choice. But the thing, like, I feel like if I press exit on the screen and I don't finish it, I'm going to feel guilty. But I've definitely thought like, okay, maybe I don't finish this, but at least I got on the bike. But then it feels so good to finish, and then you go about your day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long are the workouts? Like, how does that even work?
So you can choose. There's some are 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60. There are some boot camps where you start on the bike, you get off of it to work out, and you get back on the bike.
Oh my gosh.
Shout out to my girls, my Peloton group, Kaylee, Helen, Aisha. Helen has been doing 60-minute rides.
Wow.
I have not done one yet, so maybe
That's amazing.
maybe soon. But
I feel like I would fall
they have
off.
options. No, you don't fall. You have to clip in. Like they have
so
like the
I'd fall off and
official
my feet would
shoes.
still be
Your whole if you
connected.
fell off the whole bike, that would actually be really dangerous. But no, you wouldn't fall off.
Oh my gosh. That is so funny.
Yeah.
I love that. I've done a couple of rides.
Yeah, I mean, and then you can add on like the strength classes. So sometimes I'll do like if I do a 20-minute ride, I'll add on like a 10-minute arms or core or something.
Okay.
But this is the most consistent with working out I've been in a long time.
Good for you.
So, gotta be on a payment plan. But it's working. Shout out to the Peloton.
Shout out to Peloton.
And shout out to finishing the workout.
Wait, and yes, follow, there's handles on Peloton.
Yes, you can follow me on Peloton. My username is Mandy Coop. That's Mandy with an I, not a Y.
Thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome.
Oh, that is so funny. Wow, I love that. All right, so we're going to wrap up here. But before that, one of my favorite questions to be asked and to ask is, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
This was another tricky question. Because I feel like I've had a lot of guidance and things over like throughout my life.
Sure.
But I can't really think of like a concrete story or like extremely solid piece of advice. But I think that one thing that I think I've picked up over the years from like really close friends and like my mom and my grandfather is to, and it's going to sound so basic, but stick with me here. But seriously, like just like remember whose child I am, which is God's. And just like stay faithful and stay prayed up pretty much. Like, and that's hard to do when you are in a difficult situation and when you are wondering like, what is my purpose here? How can I fight through this? But once you do it and you see like the fruits of it, then it's easier to be like, okay, well, I do remember that one time when I needed to leave my job and God came through for me. Or I do remember that one time where, this prayer was answered. So just like remembering to have that faith, remembering that God's plan is better than my plan has been like probably like one of the biggest things that I guess would be like an advice, but just also something I've learned from like family members and mentors over the years.
I love that. It's like having like almost mental like monuments of God's faithfulness. Where like in Washington, D.C., there's all these monuments, right? And it helps you remember different points of history.
Yeah.
And in our walk with the Lord, like having monuments that were like, wow, look where God was faithful here. Look where he provided that job. Look where he like walked me through this difficult season. I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah. And I know it can be harder to do.
Sometimes
like,
it's easier said
everything,
than done.
a lot of things are easier said than done.
true.
But it is something where once you start like, kind of training your brain and really like working at it, it starts to get easier as it goes along.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
One of the best pieces of advice that I've ever gotten, I was in college, and this was the dean of my school of music, and I can't even remember what I was like going through at the time, but he gave me this incredible like illustration, and so I want everyone to like picture this in your heads with me. There are two armies, and one of the armies has to go onto an island in order to fight their enemy, okay? They have to cross a bridge. There's only one bridge to and from this island. Now, the last like general that gets onto the island from this team, right, or this army rather, he burns the bridge, right, without telling any of the other soldiers. All of the soldiers are like angry with him, and they're like, "Why did you do that? Like, why would you burn that bridge? What if we had to go back, right?" And the general is like, "Why would we leave a escape for us to retreat to where we came from when our purpose is to come here to fight and to win? We don't want to leave an option to go back." And in that moment, I had this like massive revelation from the Lord where it was like, where are areas in my life where I have left doors open or bridges open in the just in case circumstance, or in the like, what if I have to go back circumstance, when I know that God is calling me higher and forward and to stay in certain areas of my life. But, you know, sometimes we just leave those like areas open to retreat.
Like, oh, just in case.
But we're not supposed to.
Right, yeah.
We're supposed to be like, no,
That was deep.
I'm called to like stay here, to be here, and to move forward from here, not to move backwards from here.
Yeah.
And so I will literally never forget that story.
Yeah, it's like random, but it's so like
random.
deep. Like that is some advice right there.
Truly.
Yeah, that is a kind of like mind-blowing mental picture too.
Yeah.
But I love that.
Yeah. So to encourage the ladies listening here today, like, what are the areas of your life that you've left opportunity to retreat and to go back when God has asked you to stay somewhere, or God has called you to move forward from somewhere? Maybe it just is really hard. Maybe you need to talk it out with somebody. Maybe you need some encouragement. Maybe you need to ask someone for prayer. I want to encourage you to find that community, get into community. Block groups are a perfect place to do that.
Yes, speaking
Shameless
of, we happened
plug.
we did one together
We
before.
did. Yes, Amanda and I did a
Which
12-week
was great.
session. Yeah.
But yeah, it's not too late for you to join our block
Yes.
group. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. 10 out of 10 recommend. And it's a great place to feel that covering and to be encouraged to have staying power. And so we love you, Block Girls. Thank you for listening to our
Thank you
third episode.
very much.
And we will talk to you all soon.
Bye.